mostly in auditions. So it might look different ways for you, but you might feel like, you have an audition and you've received the sides enough time in advance, you really prepare, you feel ready, you feel excited about the opportunity, you've poured your heart into it, you're really game. And then there's various steps, but maybe on your way there, you start feeling constricted a little bit, and you start feeling your nerves are taking over, and you're feeling some blocks, you're feeling like your throat is quenching. No, yeah, maybe it's quenching, I don't know, it's getting tighter. You might feel like you're sweating. So there's something up with how you're feeling. You're not really able to be with the character and their circumstances. You're starting to enter your ego and how terrible it feels in the moment. And so you're starting to feel shame because you've poured your soul into this opportunity. If you're on your way to the audition, or if you're on your way to filming a self-tape with a friend, or you're waiting for your friend, and you're feeling your instrument close up, basically. And you were open and exciting, but it looks like, the possibilities are going like this. So that's one possibility. Another one is you enter the audition room and you see the other actors or actresses that are going to, audition for the role. And suddenly it looks like they might be a better fit, or they might look better than you, or taller or smaller, whatever it is that you think, the production is looking for. You think they have a better chance. And so suddenly you might have some icky shame feelings about yourself in the waiting room. Or of course, when you're in the audition room, or if you're taping, when you start actually taping, or when you start auditioning, and you feel like your instrument is really closing up and you're no way as free as you know that you can be, everything that you've prepared is completely out the window, and you're just feeling miserable and ashamed because you can do this, and yet now's the moment, now's the opportunity, and you're just shrinking, and it's a horrible, shameful feeling because you're feeling terrible and it's your passion. The people are seeing you that way. You're not going to book. So all of these efforts into your career, and this probably happens repeatedly, and then actually you're not able to show up for it like you can show up, right? So it is definitely a very uncomfortable feeling. It's an icky feeling. It's the opposite, basically, of why you're an actor, right? You want to be, first and foremost, you want to be living the character's life and their circumstances, and you want to be able to put your focus on that because that's the job description. And you're actually all stuck up in your ego, and that's really uncomfortable. And second, yeah, you want to feel alive and free when you act, and you don't want to feel all of these feelings inside of you because they feel like they're literally diminishing your life experience. It feels like you're being squeezed and pressured from all parts, and you can barely breathe and be yourself. So it can be extremely, extremely annoying. Of course, it's a horrible experience. It doesn't ever get you the results you want when you're feeling ashamed and you're shrinking that much. Mostly I hear actors, this happens more if the opportunity is big. So the bigger the opportunity, the more likely you could be feeling shame if you're stuck in that loop, right? And the more that happens, the more it creates buildup for the next time you go and audition, or the next time you tape. So it's really a tricky, vicious cycle, and you want to make sure that you get out of it. And so what I would like us to focus on today is really actually discussing why that's actually happening. Because the shame is only a symptom of the actual issue. There's a real issue, there's a real situation and problem, and it's not shame. Shame is only a consequence. It's a symptom of what's actually happening. And what's actually happening is that shame has been taught to you. Shame is not a natural emotion. Shame is a learned behavior. You have been taught to be ashamed. So in the traditional education system, big people expect little people, whether it's in the family or at school, to do what they're told, to behave a certain way. to think a certain way, to feel a certain way. And whenever you diverge from feeling like you're meant to be feeling or behaving like you're meant to be behaving, the adults, the big people, will stop you in your tracks and will make you feel bad about yourself, about your behavior, about your feelings, and about how you're thinking. So when they do that, the problem is that they have a way of doing that is humiliating and shaming. So they will feel like they need their authority to stop you and teach you a lesson. And in order to stop that behavior, they'll make you feel like they have power and you don't. And that's where the shame comes. And they teach you that. So let's take, for example, two kids at school. One pokes the other one in the face, and the teacher sees that. So one pokes, A pokes, B cries. Teacher comes in, teacher's going to take one, or A, whoever I called it, A, and is going to say, no, stop it. You can't do that. That's bad. You hurt her. Don't do that anymore. Go think in the corner, or go write about this 10 times, or there's always going to be a consequence, right? And what the little person who poked is experiencing in that moment is, like a contraction in their body, like whatever it is that they did, and they had a reason for doing it, whatever it is that they did is not okay. And because they are being grounded and they're being shamed in the moment with authority, they're being stopped in their tracks, they're not being listened to, they close up and feel the shame of what they've done. And that's what the traditional educational system does to stop and to teach people. They stop them in what they are doing and tell them to behave otherwise and be good. Like, there's another way to actually help children figure out what works and what doesn't, is that you take A and B, and A is poking B again in the face, and the teacher would come and go, oh, wow, I just saw that happened. And you would listen to B and say, oh, that it looks like there was a finger in your face, and it sounds like it was painful. I'm hearing you cry. And then you can look at the poker and say, it looks like she is not liking that finger in her face, and it looks like your finger went in her face. And you can suddenly ask what is happening and let the two kids actually be in the situation and figure it out by themselves, because they don't need external authority to behave. They are smart. They are human. Whatever the age, they can start to figure out by realizing, oh, when I do this, they don't like it. And maybe there's a better way to do it. And if you let them discover that in the moment for themselves, and you support them in being there non-judgmentally and saying, oh, it looks like that was painful for you. Is there anything you would want to say? And oh, it looks like you've put your finger in her eye, and it looks like she didn't like that. Is there anything that you want to say? Do you want to discuss about what happened and how it felt for you? Then suddenly they are not oppressed by some powerful authority that's much bigger than them, that's telling them what to do. Suddenly they can express, oh, I was afraid, and that's why I poked her. Or I didn't want her to take my toy, and that's why I poked her. Oh, okay. You didn't want her to take your toy. Oh, how did that feel for you when she took your toy? Oh, I didn't like it because I really wanted to play with it. Then you can look at the other child and say, oh, it looks like he didn't like it when you were taking his toy. And then you can go back and forth and let them progressively figure it out. I wonder if there would have been another way, rather than putting your finger in her face, that might have worked for both of you, because it looked like she didn't like that. And so they can progressively move through the situation by themselves, learning skills about communicating, being with each other, and getting feedback on, when I do this, there's this reaction, and give me a little bit of time to understand what that means. Oh, she didn't like that. Oh, it doesn't work for her. So my system, as the little poker, can get that feedback and go, oh, okay, so it's probably not the thing I want to do next time, because it doesn't work for her. And if you have assistance of an adult in that time that allows the children to figure it out, you can bypass shame. You can actually bypass shame, because shame is only fed to you You're only being told you have been bad. You can't do that. I have to stop you. And the problem is that when you learn that in an education system, in your family and at school, and it's repeated, you start associating having to do everything right. If not, I'll feel humiliated and shamed, right? So do you see the connection where what's happening is not that you have a problem which is called shame when you act? No, the problem is you have been taught since you were very little that whenever you behave in a way that doesn't work for others, you will be shamed. So when you walk into that audition room, or when you go towards the audition room, or in the waiting room, or on preparing your tape, and you're suddenly fearing that you will not do what they expect because you've been raised to satisfy other people's desires, if not, you will be shamed and humiliated and punished, well, then your whole system constricts because it's already afraid of what's going to happen, even if you're an adult. Why? Because when you were little, all of those shameful moments that were fed to you wired you into that pattern of behavior, and probably little by little traumatized you a little bit at the scale that you were, at the age that you were, with repetition. So what there is to do for you when you start acting, or when you're acting and you discover that, oh yeah, shame does come up for me, it does trigger me, is for you to start to really realize that shame is not the problem. It's the learned behavior that's a problem. It's all that pattern that's a problem. It's your wiring and your programming. You can figure things out. If you're in the room and you let's say you have to produce a big emotion in an audition, and you do a first take and it doesn't work, if you want to be professional, the most efficient thing to do is that not actually leave in your ego and start feeling shameful, because that's not going to do the job. What's actually going to do the job is for you to be with your character, with the situation, with the direction, refocus, and stay there, stay present, and deliver your professionalism. However, because you haven't unlearned that behavior of shame, you're incapable of staying focused and being with the character, and you leave for your ego. You take care of your ego, you panic about your ego, you leave in shame. And you're no longer present. You're no longer in the room. You're no longer on the tape. You're no longer defending the character's needs. You're busy trying to fix your ego, right? So I hope you guys see what's actually happening with shame. I know so many actors are suffering this, and they might have not put the label of shame on it. They just feel like the ickiness around it, especially in auditions, because you're hoping to book, so there is an authority, or you perceive that there is an authority and that you're the victim of it. And so you have to do it right. If not, you'll be humiliated. And therefore you just run into that pattern. And again, the way to undo this is to realize that you have been programmed to think like this. It's not a natural emotion. It isn't. It's a learned behavior. You have been told to be ashamed. You have been told you were bad. You have been told what you did was not good. You've been told in a way that you were not good enough. So inevitably, if you don't undo that, that becomes the way you live. And when you're an actor, since there's so many opportunities where you're going to have to put yourself in a position where you open yourself up in order to, do an audition or a tape. If you have that programming that comes in and says, no, we can't close up because shame is coming, well, you can't be present. You can't enjoy yourself. You can't deliver. You can't be there for the character, and inevitably you can't book, right? So in the work that we do, and if you haven't heard of the work we do, what I'll do is I'll put a link for you guys so that you can get on the wait list for the Instinctive Actor webinar. It's a free webinar where you can learn more about this. In the work that we do, we actually help actors undo all of that programming and conditioning, not just about shame, but about so many other things, so that you can go back to actually your natural self, and you can stay in the moment. You can stay focused on your character's needs, on what's actually happening, on the job, and not in your ego and into your fears, right? So I hope this was helpful. Thank you guys for today, and I will see you on Wednesday with a great interview, and I will put the link in the comments. Thank you. Bye.